help his sister?
He wants her to learn to sew, so he was planning to buy a sewing machine.
Ask her, does she want to learn to sew?
She wants to learn how to sew.
I tried to ask the big chocolate manufacturers, Cadbury and Nestle, about their policy on child labour, and they said that their trade organisation would answer on their behalf. The trade organisation said that the big chocolate companies do not want children to be harmed in the growing or harvesting of cocoa, and they point out that they fund projects that help farmers become more productive and are supporting a certification scheme run by the Ghanaian government to register cocoa farms and monitor employment practices. But I don't believe this goes far enough. The certification scheme is 3 years behind the original schedule, and even when it's in place, it will only cover 50% of the cocoa growing regions. Not good enough, I'm afraid. The real solution to the tragedy of child labour may lie elsewhere. I've come to a farm which is part of the Kwapo Cocoa Fair Trade Cooperative. In return for slightly higher profits, farmers promise not to use child labour, and they're monitored to see that they don't. By the sums that I've done, remember my maths isn't particularly good, they're making above average when it comes to Ghana. So these people are doing quite well. But the biggest difference here compared to the other cocoa farms are the kids. The kids are in school, they're speaking English. I just want to ask the children quickly, do you go to school?
Yes.
Do you go to school?
Yes.
Do you go to school?
Yes.
To school?
Yes.
So if you want to be as sure as you can that your chocolate's not been made by child labour, then buy fair trade chocolate. Kwapo Cocoa's farmers are guaranteed a price for their cocoa plus $150 extra per tonne. This extra money goes into a fund which benefits them and their villages. But even then, there's a catch for the Ghanaians. At the port, what percentage of your beans actually sell at the fair trade price?
We have about 3%.
3%?
Yes.
Hold on a minute, let me get that clear. You're saying of all the beans you get in from the collective, fair traded, only 3% of them are actually fair trade price?
Yes.
Just 3%?
Yeah, just 3%.
I'm really shocked. Nearly all the cocoa produced by this fair trade cooperative isn't bought at the fair trade price and ends up mixed in with cocoa which may have been picked by children. Isn't it unfair that you go to all the effort to ensure that there's not child labour, that kids go to school, that farmers get a decent return for their crops? After all of that, your cocoa gets mixed up with the people who've made no effort. Is that fair?
Yeah, it is not fair. It is not fair, but we cannot help the situation. We are not happy with it, and our prayer is that maybe one day fair trade will be able to take all our cocoa that we are producing here, for the betterment of the farmers.
This makes me really angry. I can't see why the big chocolate manufacturers can't buy more fair trade cocoa. It's in Ghana and it's available. Now, we in Britain consume more chocolate than anybody else in Europe, and I'm sure that most of us wouldn't mind spending a few extra pennies if we knew that the cocoa wasn't being farmed by children. On the trail of the last of the high street products, I head further south to Obuasi, where they mine gold. We buy around £2 billion of the stuff every year in the form of jewellery. But next time you put on your bling, give a thought to what's happened to the place where it's produced. Gold is one of Ghana's most lucrative exports. Here in Obuasi, the biggest player is part British-owned Anglo Gold Ashanti, AGA. The result of a merger in 2004 between a Ghanaian and a South African-based company. Last year, AGA recorded gross profits of around £500 million from its global operations. But it doesn't. In the 1980s, the Ghanaian government, supported by the IMF and World Bank, encouraged foreign investment. Hundreds of acres were bought up as potential gold mines. Local people were persuaded to sell their land in return for compensation they now claim was too little. And they say the impact on the environment has been devastating. What did it look like before?
This whole area was full of cocoa, oranges, yam, plantain,
cassava.
But ever since the takeover, all these things are no more.
Was this land hilly before, or was it flat?
Yeah, it was flat.
Flat. It used to be all flat. So this hill wasn't there before?
Yeah.
Okay. This hill was built to hold back tons of waste products from mining. The locals claim their water supply has been polluted.
This was our main source of drinking water.
This used to be your drinking water. What do you use it for now?
Not even for bathing.
Not even for bathing?
Yeah.
But there's a man bathing in it over there.
No, I said,
A University of Ghana survey found high levels of toxic substances in streams, fruit and boreholes in Obuasi. In one village, arsenic levels in water were recorded as 1,800 times higher than the World Health Organization maximum values. Things are no better in the nearby village of Bin Serif. Here, people have to share their life with a pit full of toxic waste less than 100 meters away from their houses. Tell me what's happening here. As I walk through the village, I stumble across grown men trying to scrape a living, literally. These people were farmers. Now they're illegal miners or glamse, reduced to trespassing on AGA land, stealing toxic waste from the pit and washing it out in the hope of finding slivers of gold. Ask him, why did he start doing it? Tell me his story. Tell me why he has to do this.
in fact, I was a student.
This guy was actually a student,
yes, he was.
But he's had to resort to this because the revenue from his farm has gone.
Sometimes it leads to some of our colleagues dying, but the question again is we have to survive. So keep on doing.
I'm amazed, and it gets worse. Local people claim AGA are too aggressive in protecting their property. Some even say they've been beaten up by the police and military.
10, 20 of our colleagues, take them to the community center.
Yeah.
They will gather the community around and they will beat us.
To deter people from
going there.
From doing it.
Yeah.
And who's that? The police or AGA security or the armed forces? Who?
The military.
These marks here are all from the beating that they received. These lacerations.
Yes.
So all of these from the
As a
beating.
result of the beating.
You know what? When I heard the people's stories being told this morning, I thought to myself, they're being treated like niggers. That's the only way you can describe how these African people have been treated. You cannot say to me that these people are considered to be human beings with feelings, with emotions, with values, with something worth living for, because the way they've been treated here, I haven't got words for it. The only word that you can use is that they've been made to be and live like niggers, people who are less than human beings. In response to complaints from local people, AGA say that they are helping the community. They've embarked on a $3 million program to cut malaria by spraying buildings with insecticide. But the locals claim the stagnant ponds provide a breeding ground for mosquitoes. The spraying manager disagrees.
Well, the mosquitoes breed in clean waters in their surroundings.
Yeah.
They do not go to them. When you go to the pit like this, it's not true.
Well, I think
He's telling lies.
Yeah.
The pit, every water camera is full of chemicals.
Yeah.
And the mosquito is so wise that it will not go and breed in that. It will not even survive.
And before the mine pit was...
I've been working about
was
this.
there any malaria? Was there any malaria before that?
Oh no. They're really committed to their well-being.
They're committed to their well-being?
Yeah.
Well, forgive me, I might be a bit simple, but this looks like a really rubbish village. This doesn't look like a company is taking care of these people. There's no work. They've got very little food. How can you really, as a Ghanaian, say that the company is concerned about these people?
We have to cut it short.
I know you can't answer that. I know you can't answer that. I know you can't answer those questions.
No, I can answer, but if I answer, there are certain things I cannot.
I understand. Anglo Gold Ashanti make millions of pounds
so it's okay
every year.
You must go and continue
there's
on
nothing to show for it. but you can't answer that question.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. I'm not here to argue with you. No, that's cowardice.
Well, I tell you what, he's on the phone now, and it's likely that he's going to be calling his boss, and we may have to move on.